Happy New Year, my friends! Time flies and it's already 2023. It's hard to believe it's been 2 years since I reviewed the Wilson T-Rex and the creator's model Rathalos. Now for this year's Christmas special, we saw the creator's model the Gigante. And for dinosaurs, now I have something special I feel is very appropriate. 2022 was a horrendous year. For me personally, with many trials and tribulations, one of which I shared in my last random video. But on the macro level, it's been tumultuous. From the invasion of Ukraine, to the lockdown situation in China, the brave struggle in Iran, to the passing of the Queen, to rising inflation and tanking markets, and these mentioned in the media, but perhaps most important in the long run, the intensification of climate change. Because 2022 was a drowning sea of woes and tears, I couldn't think of a better special than this. This is a Sensen Studio River Scene resin diorama, and depicts a river crossing, or perhaps a flood scene, where a bunch of dinosaurs are struggling to survive. The idea is actually very interesting. This diorama, when fully formed, will consist of 3 parts. Part A here is a quartet of Avaceratopses. Part B consists of 3 other ceratopsians, Diabloceratops, Medusaceratops, and Spiclepius. And all of these come from the Judith River Formation of Montana, so there's a nice geologic agreement there. No news yet on Part C, but all are stated to be 1 to 20 of scale. Let's look at Set A. Set A is relatively simple and consists of a quartet of what I presume is a family of Avaceratops. And by the way, if you know if there's a definitive plural form of ceratops, whether it's Triceratopses, Triceratopi, or just Triceratops, please let me know. I've always wondered. Anyway, I've never been fond of half-submerged statues, which seem to me to be a way out of not giving us the whole animal. But of course, in some aquatic dioramas, that's the whole point, so I'm happy with that here. Still, it makes it difficult to estimate scale. And although I usually prefer not to, I would have taken the skull length for scale this time, but since I don't know of any general consensus of an adult Avaceratops skull length, I'll have to pass on that too. The diorama itself is 14 centimeters or 5.5 inches long and just as wide. The name Avaceratops means Ava's horned face, after fossil dealer Eddie Cole's wife. Now, very romantic. Perhaps you could try the same trick and name your next sinful acquisition after your wife, your girlfriend, your husband or boyfriend. And it's a very small centrosaurine. The holotype is estimated to be 2.3 meters or 7.5 feet and may not be fully grown, but another skull, MOR 692, which may belong to Avaceratops or not, suggests an adult length of 4.2 meters or 14 feet long. And if we take this 1 to 20 of scale human, we see that a smaller adult just fits into that 2 meter or so scale of the holotype, while the larger adult scales more to the 4.2 estimate that comes from MOR 692. As for the models themselves, you can see the same kind of detail and paint application that really impressed me more about Sensen compared to Musi. Now look at the literally cracking detail on the keratin of the predentary, the rostral, and the nasal horn. Now for size reference, here's an almond. Then continuing, you can see the detail as well as a paint job on the integument of the face and jaw. The frill, and I like that naturalistic patterning. Then the keratinous postorbital, and jugal horns, and the occipitals. The eyes are very finely painted, with a pinpoint iris clearly delineated, although a tiny nitpick is that the right is directed somewhat upward, while the left is forwards. And the back of the frill really shines most unexpectedly. Now look at that textured detail at the back of the frill. I've seen nobody do this. You usually get just a smooth surface, or in the high quality PNSOs, very fine scaling. But not like this. I would love for Sensen to do a full ceratopsian. And moving down the body, you see more of that texture and color. Down at the edge, I'm delighted they've added a wash to simulate a waterline wetting from the river. And just look at the ventral surface of the skull and throat area. Very fine. The next largest is perhaps a subadult or a different sex, and you'll see more of that detail and paint application throughout. The skin, the horny bits, the frill, and in the back again, that wonderful veining texture. The underside, the body, and on the sides again, that waterline mark. And finally, the two little ones. Even at this tiny scale, again, let me bring out my almond. Every aspect of this is painted with the same meticulous care. In the tiny eyes, filling in the mouth, the throat, and even that texturing at the back. As for the translucent base, it's kind of a sickly ochre color. While not aesthetically pleasing, it shouldn't be, because it captures the turbulent brackish water. It's not supposed to be pleasant. Just look at some of that detail and texturing. Look at these ripples. So this is how the dinosaur sit in. It's not a tight fit. And indeed, this one is very loose, but it should at least be stable. I do wish that some kind of magnet could have been attached to make it more secure, that there could be less of a gap in some areas, for example here. Now this set comes with the Set A card, which tells you that this is Set A, Avaceratops, 1 to 20 of scale, and limited to 100 sets. I don't, however, see any numbering on my base. And next we have the Scene B set.